Good morning, everybody. My name is Jakub Orkiszewski, and I'm representing Imperva. I'm responsible for the Imperva business in the territory of Eastern Europe that is consisting of 16 countries, starting from the Baltic states. I'm from Poland myself, and going down to Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, and former Yugoslavian republics. So I have to say I have a pretty broad understanding of what's the main topics regarding security in our region. And I would like to share it with you. So because we are presenting Imperva for the first time at this conference, and we became active in Hungary just for the past 2-3 years, I will give you the brief introduction of where we come from and what we do. So Imperva was founded back in 2002 by the gentleman called Shlomo Kramer. This is the same guy who actually established and developed with a big success a company called Checkpoint. And our headquarters is in Redwood Shores in California. That's where we are registered. But the fact is that another headquarters for European operations we have in Tel Aviv, and actually that's our origin. When it comes to the customers, we have over 5,000 customers with on-premise solutions, but we have also thousands in the cloud through our subscription service. Speaking in particular about Hungary, our main vertical are obviously banks, telcos, but we also have one broadcasting company that is also using our security solution. Quoting the FBI director from back in 2004, there are only two types of companies, especially the big companies. So the companies that they were hacked and they are fully aware of that, and the companies that they are not aware that have been hacked. So 90% of the companies, they were hacked at one time or another. And it's not only related to the US. I can give you the example of the hacking incidents here in Hungary, even in Budapest from last year. Maybe I won't mention the name, but hacking is not only about data breach, about stealing the data, but also about killing somebody's business, or there are different purposes, right? So some of the purposes are to earn money, some others are to come along with the beliefs, or just to prove that some people can. So what we are doing and why? So if we take the traditional security of the house, we have the proper locks, we have the window closed, we have the window blinds, the alarms. But if the thief gets inside, he's free to take anything that we have inside our house. So just to give you the example of my own experience from last week. So anytime I travel, something happens at my home. So last week I was away, and my wife called me that she's in trouble because she locked the door and the lock got blocked. So I said, okay, we need to call the locksmith. There is no other way that she could cope with it, and she was outside. The locksmith came, and I was really amazed because according to what she said, it took him 2 or 3 minutes to open the door without even breaking the lock. So it was just getting in. Obviously, we have the alarm as well. So, but you know, if somebody wants to do the harm, it will do, and it's not a big science. So it's the same with IT security. Yeah. So that's what we do. We are like a safe inside the house to give the extra layer of security to protect what's the most important, the business critical data. So we protect the web applications as the entry, and we protect the data that resides whether on databases or on in files. And that's what we call data-centric audit and protection. So just to go very briefly through the entire portfolio of Imperva. So we protect the entry access to the data through web application firewall. So we protect the web applications to protect the data against the external threats. And we also protect the data from the internal threats through our database security and file security solutions. So what we will focus today is the internal part. So we will talk about database security, data masking, and basically that's what is related to the current challenges of what I will discuss and share the secret in a moment. What's important to mention is that we have very flexible deployments of our solutions. So this could be on-premise, whether physical appliances or just the software installed on virtual environment. We can also get the licenses on these two clouds, Amazon and Azure. And we have our subscription service for any type of DDoS protection, which is called Incapsula. By the way, we protect any type of databases, including more and more big data, which is the trend that we are following the market. So this is basically what we do. We protect the business critical data. Just one word about our web application firewall. That's how it looks right now, with three leaders. And the reason for that is that Gartner, that Gartner slightly changed the criteria of the assessment. So for the past 3 years, Imperva was the only leader in the Magic Quadrant of web application firewalls. That never happened to any technology, so it's a pretty big achievement. The challenges of our times, obviously the security, if we are aware that we have to protect the data, that's great. But for most of the organizations and the departments that are outside of security, we are just a cost. Yeah? So it's not easy to get a budget. It's always, okay, security, fine, we want to be protected, but this is, let's say, the last point that the companies want to invest a bigger money in. But there are some enforcements that if you want to continue the business, you need to align with some regulations. So there are different types of regulations. There's like Sarbanes-Oxley or HIPAA for the healthcare, PCI DSS for banking. But there is one big one that everybody is talking. So when I go across my region, whether these are Baltic states, whether these are countries like Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania, or even the countries from outside the European Union, like Serbia, everybody is talking about GDPR. So the fact is that not only the companies from EU, but any company, even from outside, that does the business with EU countries, or at least has the possession of personal data of European Union citizens, they have to analyze whether they should comply to this regulation or not. So what we give, so the mandates for that are the audit and reporting, user right management, assessment and risk management, and consistent protection. And that's what we give to the users of our solutions. So there is one day that we cannot escape from. That's May 25th of this year. So today we have exactly four months. So through my customers meetings, conversations with different people, at least the gap analysis is done already. So the companies know what they have in place, and if there is something extra that should be added to the environment, to the security measures, that this is the last moment to do so. So the key data protection requirements. It's a pretty broad document. Who analyzes it, that those people know. It's not easy to analyze it, and there is no single solution for that. So what we actually do is, we're not saying that buy Imperva and you'll be fully compliant with GDPR. Nobody can do this. But we address some specific articles from some paragraphs of the document, and this is mainly the controller and processor and the transfer of personal data to the third countries. This is what these articles are all about. So, and I'm not going to talk about those fines and the percentages because probably you already know about it. But it's all about data protection by default and design, data access minimization, access control, and obviously auditing and reporting for the forensic perspective. If the incident happens, we need to act to give the right reporting to the authorities to do the investigation. So the use case where we help. So the first part is discovery and classification. So usually when we have a meeting with the customers, whether it's security but also database people, we ask the common question: how many databases do you have? And it's really, it looks like an easy question, but it's not really easy to answer because the databases are multiplying, there are more and more. So what we need to do is to run the discovery, to check how many databases we are and what actually is in those databases, and in particular for GDPR, where the personal data is located. So then we do the data classification, and we also discover the vulnerabilities to give the tool or the proper information in hands to developer to patch them. And then once we have this step, we have the monitoring and analyzing. So this is the constant activity monitoring to the databases, user behavior analytics, peer group analysis, and ransomware detection, which was pretty let's say the incidents were pretty loud last year. And at the end, the constant protection, which is the key, and the reporting. Three different solutions. So SecOps is the solution that we built. Actually, what we do is we can start with, let's say, database protection, but something that differentiates us from other vendors is that if we go for database protection, we add gateways to the same management control. So we actually build the solution from different elements. So we can add the web application protection and file protection as well. And as an additional layer of security, we add counter breach, which is on the top. This is the user behavior analytics tool. I will tell about it in a couple of minutes. And the camouflage, it's data masking, or to be more precise, data anonymization that also limits the access to the sensitive data that is shared with third parties. So after the analyzing of what should be done, these are the 5 steps that we suggest to do, and that's what is pretty easy to do with our solution. So as I mentioned, discovery, classification, setting the controls, audit and security, and at the end, measurement and reporting. So the use cases related to GDPR are data discovery and classification, vulnerability assessment, sensitive data audit, data across borders, data masking and pseudonymization, and obviously breach detection. So the data discovery and classification, that's basically what I already described earlier. So we need to find out what, where, and how, who's got the data to what, and where the data is stored. And this actually applies to Articles 25, 32, and 35 of GDPR regulation. So the next one is the vulnerability assessment and management. The solution for that is SecOps, and we identify basically the security holes that could be exploited by the attackers. So basically the breach risk is reduced, and we can demonstrate to the authorities or auditors the compliance. By the way, this is not only the use case for GDPR. We can apply it to any other, whether formalized regulation enforced by the country or international authorities, or the internal or external auditors. Yeah, and that's what we are leading to, the sensitive data audit. This provides the audit trails to who's accessing what, and this is helping a lot with if the incident happened, we have the full visibility of the groups, the users. By collecting and analyzing the logs, we know exactly who accessed what, and this also includes the privileged users. So I will leave it, and I will leave this open to our, let's say, offline discussion. But just a grasp of the deployment that we have is that we have the gateways that are installed very close to databases. So we have the full monitoring of the access to databases through the network, but we have also a set of agents that can be installed on the databases itself, and this is very important when it comes to the privileged users access monitoring. Excuse me. So even if they have to conduct some job and bypass the network and logging in directly to the databases, we still see what the job was done. So a couple of months ago, I had a discussion with one of the telco companies from here, from Hungary, and we were discussing this privileged user monitoring. And the guy responsible for security actually told me that one of the database admin saved his job because of the tool. So the story was that the data was stolen, and it was a proven fact. And because they couldn't find the person who did that, actually one of the guys from database department was accused that it was him, because they knew that the job was, that he was doing some job directly on the databases. And because of that monitoring through the agent and analyzing the period of time he was doing the job on, he was able to prove that actually he logged in, did the maintenance job or whatever job he had to do on the database, logged out, and he had nothing to do with that breach. So actually he saved the job, and it was proven. So initially, when you speak with the database people, they are, let's say, not a big fans of this kind of monitoring tools, but at the end, when they understand the purpose, and it's not only to prove that they are guilty, but it's also the proof that we can protect them with that tool, it's much appreciated. And in terms of GDPR, obviously it addresses several of different articles. Data across borders, that's Article 44. So this is primarily for the international organizations. So the use case that we have, the real scenario, was about the bank. We have a discussion with the bank from Czech Republic and Slovakia. So actually, the bank with two branches, but they were using the same system. And the challenge they had was that because of the regulation, the people working in Czech Republic shouldn't see the personal data of the Slovak customers and vice versa. And because we were able to apply this, let's say, filtering or limitation of the visibility of the data, they easily addressed the challenge with database activity monitoring solution. Data masking and pseudonymization. The purpose of this, in terms of GDPR, is the limitation of exposure of the production data that includes the personal data. So this is actually the static data masking. So what we do is let's put it this way. When you speak with the developers and you ask the developers what kind of data do you need to do your job, to make some improvement of the applications and databases, they will always say that they need the production data. Obviously, if this is the third-party company or even not the third party, but for some bigger organizations, the developers of their own. It's, again, exposing the sensitive data to more and more people or users, and where the leakage is probable. So what we do with our solution, we make a copy of the production data. We apply different type of, let's say, anonymization, so that the data have the absolute logic sense. It looks exactly like production data, so for quality assurance or development, they can still do the same job, but the data is completely fake, and it's irreversible process to get what's right. So who's standing behind this data? So to give you the one of the examples, or it's a shuffling. So let's say we mix the first names, surnames, and the national ID numbers, or any other number, credit card number. So we are doing the shuffling, and let's say the first name is taken from different person, surname from different, and the credit card number from totally different person. As I mentioned, it makes absolute sense from the logic perspective. So let's say if among the customers, the bank, for example, has the, let's say, people in the age of 16, that they have the accounts, but they are not allowed to still get the credit card, this will be taken into consideration by the policy, and even so through that fact, this name won't be used for aligning with some credit card. So, and it's also, if we store the data in different databases, and it's repeated, like the names or credit cards or whatever, the same logic applies to every database that the data is residing in. Breach detection and incident response. So we have a really nice set of predefined policies. So first of all, the database activity monitoring or database firewall is reporting in the real time the incidents and what's happening. But on the top of it, we have the solution that is called counter breach, and this is something that Americans call unknown unknown. So it's a machine learning something. So this is the layer of security that is helping us with the scenarios that we cannot really predict even with the policies, but we know that some, let's say, some policies within the organization can be violated. So just to give you the overview of counter breach, how that looks like. So it's user behavior analytics. We don't do anything within the GUI. I mean, we don't set any policies. We just leave it as it is. This is not real-time alerting. It's more analyzing over that. We need to allow some time for this tool to learn the regular behavior of the users. This is matched with the we take the data, for example, from Active Directory, so we have the users from their names, and we match them through, let's say, individual use, but also by the groups. So let's say if we have the payroll department, and the users from payroll department, they do some regular job from Monday to Friday. This is correlated, and if suddenly one person out of 10 logs in to the system on Sunday, not from Hungary, but from, I don't know, Hawaii or Russia or Brazil or whatever, this is something, and from totally different endpoint, this gives us the alert that something goes wrong. Or the other example, if let's say somebody is working on the credit cards or national ID numbers and has the access to some amount every day because of the purpose of the job, and suddenly, let's say this amount is up to 100 daily, and suddenly it's 1,000, obviously we will be informed about it. So we had the stories that we actually run the pilot of this solution. So before it was really deployed to production, it was the pilot stage, and some banks, not here in Hungary, but somewhere else, they found out that some employees were doing some weird activities and actually were stealing the credit cards data. So the guy went to a serious trouble. So mapping GDPR with what we do is, as you can see by the articles, and what we do. One thing I haven't mentioned is the user right management. So I think this is pretty important. So as additional feature, I'm sure that all of your organizations has already some measures in place where you grant the access to some data or ban the access to some data. So we can take it as additional layer of security, and based on that we also match it with the users with the groups and the access. So the common example I'm giving here is the one when somebody from payroll department, where they have the access to some financial data, are moving to HR department, where they don't really need to have necessarily the access to salaries, for example. And somebody like the admin forgot to switch off the access to some parts of the data. This is automated process and will send you the alert that something is going wrong and that particular user shouldn't have the access. So we know from that who has the access to what and who granted this access, which is also pretty important. And in the end, I'd like to give you the example of the data theft prevention use case. So there was some electronic payment processor that actually used our database activity monitoring to be compliant with PCI, paragraph 10. And they discovered that there was some suspicious access activity, and the ATM and PIN numbers were stolen. What SecSphere DAM is doing is generate the alerts based on the audit policies, predefined audit policies. So what we could do, or the users could do with our tool, was the review of the logs from the certain period of time, and was able to generate the alert, the report of what happened, and the report could be sent to the right authorities for the forensic purposes. What's worth to mention is that we are fully integrating with any leading CM solution for the better security and analysis posture. So how the alerting is working. So obviously for the admin who's administrating database activity monitoring, the alerts pops in on the GUI, but we can also set for the serious violation or serious suspect of the activity, we can set the policies that the email will be also sent to particular admins or whoever is in charge, as this is the real time, and the person responsible will be informed straight away of the incident. So that's how the reporting looks like. So we have two options. We can use the CVS or PDF format for the reporting, depending on who we want to report it to. What's also different from other solutions of that type is the dynamic profiling. So this is something that Imperva patented, and it applies also to web application firewall and to database firewall as well. So over the period of time, we are learning automatically the regular activities of the users, the regular access to databases, and if the access and activity is different, then the person in charge will be alerted. So on the top we have two options. We have database activity monitoring and database firewall. Activity monitoring is mainly for audit purposes. With database firewall we are also able to block the access. So from the day one we are pretty well protected. We are learning over time which is the regular activity and which is not. But if something is obvious, like SQL injection, then it will be blocked straight away. Yeah, and so this is the difference between the two. It's pretty brave to get the blocking, but there are some obvious things. And the difference between us and others is that the fact that usually what this kind of solutions do is the learning mode, and you need to manually switch from learning mode to protection mode. With us, it's a constant learning. You don't have to think really about learning and protection, and let's say if there are some new queries, to switch off the protection to learn again, because it will continue to learn and protect. So that's how that particular company is setting the policies. So they are selecting the operations. In this case, it's a select. Then the predefined policies, like PCI in that case, and what kind of database they want to access to. What type of database to be protected. Yeah, and that's how the alerting looks like. So at the end, just to show a few logos of the companies that trusted us already. I guess for the period of last couple of years, we are pretty well settled, and especially with the GDPR right now, we run a lot of talks and pilots and conversation with different customers that host those personal data. So that would be it. So thank you very much. And I would need to check, I don't know still why, but how, sorry, but there is some access to the questions. So I was informed that there will be some iPad. So I guess there is nothing like this. But if you have any questions, I can take it, because I don't see this iPad that was supposed to be in use. If not, thank you very much. We are we have a booth just outside on the corridor, so I'll be here for the day, and I'm happy to discuss individually with you about our solutions and your needs. Thank you.